Okay, I think that we can start because otherwise we won't have enough time. So,
of course we can.
welcome to everybody. We are very happy that you are here with us attending this webinar, considering it is the end of July and it is summer and everything. But we hope that the topics we will address are of interest for you. Some of you, I don't know if they are the same people that have attended the first webinar, have asked us some topics to be addressed more in depth. So this second webinar of a series of 3 is a sequel, but it is also in itself independent on some topics that your colleagues, other people involved in volunteering considered very important. So we have selected these 3 aspects that are interconnected of the challenging situations. Let me see, maybe if it is, no, challenging situations and the mindset, positive mindset, and also some aspects of relationship building and boundaries, which we consider to be of primary importance in maintaining a balanced mindset and also in acting effectively in your work and your activities. So Federica Leoni, I am Caterina Anagnostopoulou. We are both psychologists and psychotherapists. Federica almost psychotherapist in a few weeks.
Yeah.
So, and we are both involved in different ways and have also cooperated in both support, both to people in need and vulnerable people. And also, my connection is low, but you can hear me.
Yeah,
Vulnerable people and also people working in challenging settings like you do. So I will give her the floor, so because we don't have so much time to make all introduction, and she will introduce herself and she will present her contribution, and then I will take the floor to continue. So Federica, the floor is yours.
Caterina. Thank you, Caterina, for the short presentation, and thanks to all of you to be here today. As Caterina already said, I'm a psychologist, almost psychotherapist, and actually I'm working from Greece. I'm practicing my psychology profession mainly through the web. Today, we want to starting from the previous meeting, and we would like to get a bit deeper to some topics that we have already spoken about in the previous meeting, and especially the positive mindset, how to build a positive mindset. So I will share my slide, my presentation. Okay, I have to, sorry, I have to go back because I don't know, they were in the wrong point. Okay, so today I would like to share with you the topic of the positive mindset, some dimensions that are characterizing a positive mindset, and the importance of sustaining the personal self, especially for those workers that are working in humanitarian field. Before to start my presentation, I would like to share with you some line that I believe can, in a really good way, express the meaning, the core of the concept positive mindset. In every day, there are 1,440 minutes. That means we have 1,440 daily opportunities to make a positive impact. So, through this few lines, I would like to start to talk to you about what is a positive mindset. A positive mindset is the tendency to focus on the bright side, to expect positive results, and approach challenges with a positive outlook. Having a positive mindset means making positive thinking an habit a daily habit, continually searching for the silver lining and making the best out of any situation we are facing, we find ourselves in. But developing the right thoughts, a positive mindset, is not about being constantly positive or cheerful. And it's not about ignoring anything negative can happen in our life or the unpleasant moment or situation we can face. It's about incorporating both positive and negative into our perspective and choosing any way to be generally optimistic. There are many characteristics that can describe a positive mindset. Let's see together which they are. Optimism, that means a willingness to make an effort and take a chance instead of assuming our effort won't pay off. The acceptance is the ability to recognize that things sometimes or many times don't always turn out how we expect or want them to, and learning from our mistakes. And in this perspective, to see our mistakes like a great teacher. Resilience, that means bouncing back from adversity, disappointment, instead of giving up. Other dimensions that can characterize a positive mindset are gratitude, that means actively, continuously appreciating the good things in our life. Consciousness and mindfulness, they are together, that means to dedicate the mind to conscious awareness and increase the ability to focus in the present moment while the things are happening, as we have said also in the previous webinar. The integrity is the trait of being honorable, right-house, and straightforward instead of self-serving. So these are some characteristics that we can call that we can call a positive mindset. So actively adopting optimism, acceptance, resilience, gratitude, mindfulness, integrity in our life will help us to develop and maintain a positive mindset. Because generally I like to share topics that partly or completely I have experienced in my life, I would like to share with you my recent volunteer experience when gratitude has surprisingly proved me to be one of the most powerful dimensions of a positive mindset. So, during the recent period of isolation, the difficulties related to this new reality we had to face were many. The first day, honestly, I was feeling lost. I was struggling to understand how to move on in this new and peculiar condition. Until a friend proposed me to help an association which was taking care of people whom couldn't buy food and satisfy primary needs because in serious economical difficulties or in condition of physical vulnerability. So I started to help Casetta Rossa, that is a self-managed space in the heart of Roman suburbs. And we start with a big group of people to take care of fragile families. How? Collecting food offered to us from supermarkets, preparing and carrying ready food packages to homeless or migrants, delivering groceries to those who, in that period, couldn't go out from their houses because they were old or because they had some illness issue. Every time I finished a delivery, every time we ended the shift in the warehouse, my coordinator never forget to tell us thank you. That true thank you, repeated every day, over time, began to give me a deep sense of gratitude. I realized that these thanks were not only a recognition of the value of our collective actions, but it was also turning into a self-recognition of our personal value, the same value that our coordinator could detect so clearly in all of us, the volunteer. In that perspective, gratitude was not just an action, the action to say thank you or to receive this action. It was also a positive emotion that serves a biological purpose. It is more than feeling thankful. It is a deeper appreciation for someone, for ourselves, for something that has happened, that produces longer lasting positivity. A feeling which has helped me to face that period of isolation in a more productive, proactive, and positive way. Gratitude was one of the emotions studied by positive psychology, and it can be defined as our emotion that relates to our ability to feel and to express thankfulness and appreciation. And different studies have supported the idea that gratitude can generate many different benefits, like improving feeling of connection in time of loss and crisis, can improve also our energy level, making us feel much more proactive. Can improve also our physical health. People who show gratitude, express gratitude, report less pain and a general feeling of health, more regular exercise, and more frequent checkups with their doctor. Gratitude can also improve our psychological health. Grateful people, in fact, enjoy higher well-being and happiness and suffer of a reduction of symptoms like depression, stress, anxiety. Can also increase our empathy, can expand capacity for forgiveness, and can reduce aggression. Those who show their gratitude are less likely to seek revenge against others and more likely to behave in a prosocial way. Can also improve our sleep in a quantitative and in a quality level. Can also increase our self-esteem. People who are grateful have increased self-esteem, partly due to their ability to appreciate other people's accomplishments. Gratitude can also increase our mental strength. Grateful people have, in fact, an advantage in overcoming trauma and enhance resilience, helping them to bounce back from highly stressful situations. Can also improve the connection with our spiritual dimension, that is a really important dimension, and as we said in the previous webinar, is really important for those people like the helping the humanitarian worker. Gratitude can help us also in making new friends. One study found that thanking a new person, acquaintance, make them more likely to seek a more lasting relationship with us. So, observing all these great benefits that gratitude can give to us, I think is very important to start from today to feed, to cultivate our gratitude dimension. But how? Exist many different methods we can use in order to cultivate our gratitude dimension. Today, I would like to share with you some methods that can be easily applied during our daily life, in our routine. The most common method is the gratitude journal, that consists in recording experiences for which we feel glad, we feel gratitude. The idea is to reflect over the past day, weeks, months, and remember at least 3 things we are especially grateful for. But what is the appropriate amount of journaling we should do per week? Some propose doing it every day. Some others say that it's better doing it every month, once every week. In fact, doing it every day can be tedious and sometimes can be forced. It becomes a practice that maybe you feel you should do or need to do, and not something that you really want to do. So when journaling becomes a banal task and not an enjoyable practice, then you need to adjust the amount of journaling you are practicing. Example of journaling can include different things, like I can write a nice walk in the nature, a nice talk with a friend, a nice food, or a moment in which I have helped a person. And recording these positive elements, experiences, can boost level of alertness, enthusiasm, determination, attentiveness, and energy, especially when compared to those who recorded or focused mainly on negative thoughts. Research, in fact, show that recording experiences for which we are grateful for only 2 consecutive weeks can have a good effect that can last until 6 months. Another exercise we can practice is called gratitude reflection. Reflection is an important part of mindfulness meditation, and this kind of practice can lead us to increase our sense of well-being. Here, I have written the 4 steps you need to follow in case you are interested to try to start to practice the gratitude reflection. I will not read it to you, but you can find them in the slide. Another method that we can use in order to fit our gratitude dimension is the gratitude walk. Gratitude walk is a great exercise because we can do it every day, and gratitude and walking is already therapeutic itself. So the goal of gratitude walk is to observe the things that we can see around us while we are walking, to take it all in, to be aware of the nature, to be aware of the smell of the plant, to be aware of the color of the trees, of the sound of the birds, and try to notice how our feet feel when we step into the ground. The last exercise that you can practice, and is very simple, is writing a letter or an email to a person that we feel particularly grateful to have in our life. Let's be detailed. Let's write why we feel this gratitude for him or for her. Let's try to express all the wonderful qualities about this person and how they personally have affected ourselves in our personal life. So, a positive mindset, as I said before, can be really important, can be a great tool, an important resource for everybody, and especially for those like humanitarian workers that work in contact with complex situations, with strong feelings and emotion. A psychotherapy researcher, Jerome Frank, produced evidence that many different helping methods are similarly effective because of their common factor. Between these common factors, the most important, he said, was the presence of an emotionally charged, confining relationship with an helping person. So, in order to be able to offer as a humanitarian worker an emotionally charged, confining relationship, it may be necessary to feed and to cultivate our positive mindset, as well sustaining the personal self. So, this last aspect, to sustain, to feed our personal self, is a serious obligation because the humanitarian work cannot successfully proceed without it. Indeed, self-care means finding ways to replenish the self, and the result is more important than the method. In this perspective, an important primary goal for professional self-care is to develop attitude and activities that serve as natural endorphin boosters and stress hormone reducer. The point here is to find a way, like before for the gratitude, to produce a constant self-renewal. How we can do that? We can do feeding different aspects of our personal self. Of course, today we don't have enough space and time to describe all the aspects that we can feed in order to cultivate and to cultivate our personal self. Today, I've talked to you briefly about 3 important aspects. One, the first that you can see in my slide, is nurturing the emotional self. This dimension can be characterized or described through 2 different dimensions: the concept of therapy for therapists. In fact, we need to be aware that what is good for the others, for example, my patient, I'm a psychology, can be good also for ourselves. A psychology, how can take care of their emotional self? Through the concept of therapy for therapists. This concept, of course, can be applied in many different ways. I can use the space of supervision. I can ask supervision to my colleagues. Another aspect, another dimension that can characterize the emotional self is to develop a deeper sense of self-compassion that can help us to respond more productively to the highs and to the lows of our work. Self-compassion can be defined as be kind and understanding to ourselves in situations of pain, of stress, of failure, rather than being self-critical. The second dimension is nurturing the loving self. Affection, it can be such a powerful source of professional vitality, helping humanitarian workers to sustain themselves in stressful situations. For many people, this can mean to feed the love for their partner, for their friends, their family, their children. The overall effect is a sense of well-being that can radiate from their personal life. This aspect is really important, even if can appear like obvious, because many times while we are working, we are facing a stressful period in our work, we feel that we have too many things to do. Sometimes unconsciously, we can feel that we don't have time, we don't have space to host the people that we love. So in all that cases, can be really important to be aware about this dimension that can have great effect even in our job. The third dimension is nurturing the humorous self. The humorous self means actively laughing, being playful with our colleagues, telling jokes, and being humorous. All these actions are very important especially for individuals that work in environments that are often characterized by serious human problems. So there are, as I said before, there are many dimensions that we can nourish in order to take care of our personal self. We can feed our nutritious self through the alimentation, the diet that we follow. We can feed our physical self through the sport. We can feed the priority setting. We can feed also the recreational self that can include the hobbies, the free time. Anyway, being aware of the importance of taking care of ourselves is an important first step to move in the direction of a constant investment in a self-renewal process. And because we are in the end of my presentation, I want to share with you this line that can define in a very simple and true way the importance of take care of ourselves. And it say, how does the opera singer take care of the voice, the baseball pitcher, the arm, the woodcutter, the axe, the photographer, the eyes, the ballerina, the legs and the feet, the practitioner in a helping, caring relationship intense profession, the self. Thank you for the attention.
Okay. So, um, this was the part that Federica had prepared. And now there is the second part. I will make a presentation, and it is linked and connected to the work of Federica. It is also connected to what we have presented and shared in May in the first webinar. During this webinar will be made available online in the chat for you to download both the slides of the first webinar and of this one. So you can also have all the things that we have presented and also the resources. So what Federica gave us a lot of hope and enthusiasm and happiness, and she was very convincing about, very persuasive, telling that what she offered is something she has experienced herself. And now going into the field, bringing all these reflections into the field of the, let me open the slides, of the first line, first stage of reception field work, that it can be extremely challenging. And your colleagues in the previous webinar asked for something more about it, how to handle overwhelming emotions, or how to handle situations with people with trauma. I understand that these kind of topics are very delicate to be treated exhaustively in a 1-hour webinar. So we have chosen what can be more of help, and it is more transferable and usable as awareness, and also as something practical to put in practice. But we are also available for further inquiries or for feedback. Now I will send you our email, but you will find our contacts also in the slides. Okay, we welcome your feedback. We will have approximately 10 minutes at the end for questions and answers, or for your, if you want to testify something of your experience, we will try to share it with other people. And then we will have that time available. Now I'm sending the email, and then I will start with my presentation. Okay, so the link between the challenging situations, the positive mindset that Federica quite exhaustively already presented, and relationship building. Also, Federica has underlined the importance of a relationship, that it is emotionally colored. This is what is important for the field worker, the person who works as a volunteer or in some other way, humanitarian worker. Sometimes this emotional coloring can be overwhelming most of the times. So how it is possible, by setting boundaries that are healthy and that also give the possibility to the relationship to be maintained in a way that it is helpful for the person and also sustainable for the helper. So we will see how these three aspects are interrelated. So first, if you want, Federica, you can see, read the chat. If you want now to write to us, if you are now doing field work, you have already completed a mission, you are close to start something new, because there are different stages of the volunteering or field work activity. And these different stages imply different challenges. So this is why I have chosen a more neutral word, the challenging situations, instead of trauma or overwhelming emotions, because the words we use affect also what we recall as memory, and how we feel, and how we consider events and situations. So each of us, when thinking about challenging situations, may recall something different. So I would like you to reflect about what is the stage of this activity. If you are more a newcomer, or you are now working, and we would like to have some information about that, only also to know what is your interest, and even where you are working, in which country, etc. So this has a lot of difference, makes a lot of difference of the kind of challenges. So when thinking what I said before, challenging situations, each of us may associate, maybe we recall an event, a state of our personal self, feelings, thoughts, relationships, scenes or images. Scenes, these visual scenes can be often implied and involved when we think about a stress that it is overwhelming than the kind of stress we can afford. So now I will make the part of Federica was the light side. My part, it will be a little bit the dark side, because this is what also your colleagues had asked. So we have shared the two aspects. And memories involved recalling something from the past. So we link, when we think about challenges, something we have experienced or something that we anticipate. We may anticipate something that may happen. And all this has also some correlates that have to do with our feelings, our emotions, our level of arousal, the physiological arousal that can be of anxiety or more depressed, that we don't have a lot of energy, or we may be extremely active. This has to do with very high stress, both in the helpees and the helpers. Now I'm simplifying extremely all this topic, but it can help us to give it at least a shape, to recognize something that may have been part of your experience. And so this awareness about the effects of the words that we use in our self-talk, and also when we act in the outer world, is very important. Because if I say a challenging situation, it gives, at least for me, it makes me think of something that has the possibility to be dealt with, and also to find a strategy to cope with. If I choose another very strong word, or the memories I recall, or the fantasies, the imagination, my imagination goes somewhere else. And this affects also how I feel, my breathing, if I'm more tense, or if maybe I was relaxed. So also when we talk with ourselves or with other people, the words and how we define people and situations have an influence on how we feel, and then we will see later how also other people feel. So also the people you are working with, the asylum seekers and other people you are related with. So there is a circular relationship between the challenges, let's say more generally, the mindset, and the consequent states of self, and the relationships and the effectiveness of our actions within the relationships. Now this is a this is Schopenhauer. That is, I like this. Mention some of his the things he wrote, that the compassion is the basis of morality. So if we are able to feel compassion, we can be empathic. At the same time, compassion is being the basis of morality. It's very important also that it is combined with a very well-centered and balanced attitude toward the people we feel compassionate to. This has to do with boundaries, and we will see later. And also that the representation is not the thing itself. So if we think about the person, a traumatized person, it is a representation, but the person is not the representation or the label we apply to that person. So this also has very subtle but very important implications on how we talk about people, because this also affects our behavior towards them in a visible way, and also in a way that is more subtle and also non-verbal. Now I will say a few things about the responses to trauma or to extremely overwhelming experiences. I will not enter into the trauma that may have been experienced by the people you meet on the islands or in other settings that maybe they have undergone something we cannot even imagine. But this extremely overwhelming stress and experiences or trauma can also be vicariously perceived in some way by the helpee, by the person that is close and that works with let's say the refugee. I will use this label. So sometimes maybe it may have happened that while interacting in different ways with a person that perhaps bears an experience of this kind, you have felt something immediately or even after that. So some emotions that maybe you have brought in your country afterwards is something that you have a little bit accumulated as a vicarious exposure to this, no, the exposure to this vicarious traumatizing experience. Or also it can be a very overwhelming stress that maybe it's not related to a specific traumatic experience, but to what people every day live and have to cope with in some very dramatic conditions of life. And you are witnesses of these conditions. As said Federica, sometimes it's also it is good that we are emotionally involved. If we are too much emotionally involved and we lose the possibility to handle ourselves, we are not of help to anybody. This is also why practitioners in helping professionals like psychotherapists, they they receive supervision, or they are so attentive to these self-care strategies and practices Federica presented, because they are of primary importance for us, but also to be able to perform and to do effectively it is our task, what is also our scope. So to trauma, there are two main self-protective responses. Perhaps you have already read the slide, that they are mediated by the autonomic nervous system. Very generalizing, it is a hyperarousal and hypoarousal response that are mediated by two different branches of our nervous autonomic system. And both responses are functional. It's not the response in itself that it may be problematic. What can be a problem? It is if this response persists, or if the factor that elicits this response, it is continuative, it continues in time. So sometimes it's not the event in itself, but in how each person, because each person is different, not all volunteers that are exposed to a situation respond in the same manner. Perhaps a kind of eliciting input is different for each person. And this is something good, that not all of us are the same. So it is important to have awareness of your personal response to different situations and different eliciting events. And so these responses may be also triggered by stimuli that are independent, but some way they recall the original memory or experience. This is perhaps why some volunteers, after they have completed the volunteering field work, and they went back in their house, in their homes and country, and their work or other activities. After some time, they may recall and still have some feelings or sensations or responses, psychophysiological, that are linked to the exposure to the stress they had undergone in the past. So this is why the question was how to deal with this. First of all, for those that are now starting, or for everybody, it is important also, if we are aware, we can approach situations with a different mindset. While in the moment we are involved, sometimes we lose this orientation. Not in the same moment we can be aware of what is happening. But if we have a possibility to practice a mind sight, to observe our feelings, our thoughts, so to take a little bit of distance, that it doesn't mean to be dissociated or to be detached. It means just to take some time and to observe what is happening, and also applying all the tips and the suggestions of practices Federica gave you and both of us gave you in the previous webinar. It is possible to cope and to process these physiological responses so that they do not crystallize, and they be processed and be as we put a file in a directory, we can put that file somewhere. We know that we had witnessed that experience, but we can go on with our lives without being so strongly affected. And this is the good news, that the neuroscience, and there is evidence from research that the positive experience, not only it is, yes, I don't think about a problem. If there is something that is too much overwhelming, it is important to address, to pay attention, and also to ask for help if it is necessary. So this is very, very important. And at the same time, if there is an attitude of focusing on positive experiences and of treasuring them, while also being in the midst of these challenges, it is possible to modulate the impact of the stress with other kind of inputs. So these are some very, very short results of research, that neurons that fire together wire together. So research now has taught us that we can rewire our mind, our brain. So the thoughts we focus more on are thoughts that activate some particular brain circuits, networks. Okay, and the more we persist in thinking about positive things and positive emotions are aroused, the more we rewire our brain in that direction. The more we persist in negative thoughts, negative in thoughts that have a negative impact on us or also in other people, we do the same thing, so that we constantly wire and rewire according to what kind of brain networks we activate with our thoughts, with our when we speak, etc., when we talk. So, and there's also the possibility to use it or lose it. So if we disengage our circuits from some tasks, so also from some situation or thoughts, they begin to degrade. There are some not so healthy. That there is the extreme pathological response of dissociation, but it is in that moment it is something that it is self-preserving, so it has a function, and this is the extreme. But in a more middle point, there are possibility to be aware, because if the dissociation does not imply an awareness of what is happening, but if we actively master our exposure to stimuli from outside, how the time we are exposed, how we respond, how we take care of ourselves, and how we communicate and be in the relationship with other people, we can be masters of ourselves in that respect, and use it or improve it. There is a possibility to regulate the negative feelings also associated with trauma and overwhelming stress. And also the repetition, the intensity and time dedicated, and the transference, that it is the transfer between the regions of our brain and also between fields of activity, the sectors of our lives and also of our work. Now we can make another step and we can bring all this to the helping relationship, where being said what now I just said, all this happens constantly in our interactions, continuously. And so also, so the helping relationship, it implies this circular mutual influence. So the helper is affected and it is a challenge. At the same time, we affect the other person. So what we bring, if we process and we are able to clear our minds and also to purify also ourselves from these sometimes spurious memories or experiences we have witnessed, we can be more also helpful in the relationship, because also we affect the other person. So we are attitudes, the emotional and affective states. So these levels of arousal and emotional balance are in continuous mutual interaction. And I think that all of us are aware if we are more aroused or less aroused. When we are actively doing something, there is an arousal. The arousal, it's constantly up and down. It's not, and this is physiological. It's not something that it is not ever changing. It changes continuously. Now that I'm presenting, I am more aroused than in a normal calm situation before the webinar started, because I'm thinking how to present. I want to offer you something that it is good for you. And so there is an arousal, but it is something normal and it is functional for my task. If I was not aroused, perhaps I would be less effective. So this taking also going back to the work of Federica, all these interests, activities, our attitude toward ourselves, we can bring it also in the interpersonal relationships with the people we are helping, with our colleagues, and also in our team we are working. Okay, so also the mental images we keep and we keep in our minds affects all our brain circuits. Perhaps it is not immediate, the effect. we do a constant rewiring. So I can subscribe this to you, I can grant this to you. If we make an experiment of choose which thoughts and which experience to keep in your mind, it will have it will give results. So this has to do also with boundaries that especially in the field work is one of the big challenges, because the camps have no boundaries or there are very strict boundaries if there is a lockdown, but there are not boundaries, that there are not clear rules. So the absence, if there is not this kind of also of rules and also of a daily routine, it is difficult for the people that are stranded. It is difficult for those that are there to help them. So the boundaries have to do, so for the helper with him or herself, about her thoughts, how the use of time. There are some slides both from the first webinar and also here about some good practices also to regulate and modulate the exposure to stressful situation, or also to the balance between work and private time, etc. But the healthy boundaries, they give the possibility to provide self-care and preservation of yourself, and to build healthy and caring relationships. So we can be compassionate if there are boundaries. And it helps to modulate this arousal. If there are boundaries, we are not so exposed and overwhelmed to all that arrives from a big number of people. And it is boundary keeping also. So boundaries create the space to the relationship to be established, and to go back and forth, to go close and to go, and then to withdraw for the relationship, and makes possible this modulation for both or for all the people involved. And also it ensures the safety and prevents the risk of violations and exploitation. It's something very delicate in volunteering work where there are no boundaries. People bear very difficult experiences. It is very important to be aware and also to be a guardian of our own needs and how to ask for our needs to be satisfied, because we can be a little bit overwhelmed by the needs of the people that need help. At the same time, we may bring in the relationship some of our needs. And the people that are very, very vulnerable and very in need, it is very important also to keep them safe from our experiences, from what we bring in the relationship. Especially there that there are no boundaries, everything is a little bit, it may be not always organized. And the refugee has broken boundaries. It is himself, his very essence of being a refugee and asylum seeker, he has broken a boundary between two countries, a rule. So the importance of having rules that can be flexible is of paramount importance. And so this is to distinguish our needs, and also in teams and working groups. I think that also working groups in teams, and also for people who coordinate other volunteers, to keep this in mind and to modulate the tasks, so to give people the possibility to rest. If it is too much, people get exhausted. So I very, very strongly recommend this, because otherwise they are not more so effective. And then there are all the post-volunteering effects that are not only for this reason, but both also the coordinators have the possibility to regulate things so that they work better. And this is what some other things that have already just in the slide: wise use of time, focus of attention. Also, attention and thoughts are boundaries. I can create boundaries inside myself related to an experience that I maybe sometimes arouses, and sometimes I can decide to bring it in the back, not to keep it in my mind continuously. So, and this is from the ancient times, the equanimity. This is one of the virtues. Now we are talking about skills, but in the ancient times they were the virtues that Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and many other philosophers have written about. Is a state of mind that it's not indifference. So we can be very compassionate, empathic. At the same time, if we are equanimous, we can cross whatever condition that can be for us threatening or for another person without losing our balance. And this is possible if you read the works of Seneca or Marcus Aurelius. There are a lot of suggestions. And we also become a positive role model. If the other people see that we can bear, but it's not bear that we are overwhelmed and just be stressed. It is the possibility to modulate and to calmly face even the most challenging conditions. We are a very positive role model. So these are some self-care strategies that you will find them also in the first the slides of the first webinar. They are very strictly in tune with those of Federica, and also another very good practice is that of painting. When they say you can tell, but what are you saying? How can I paint? But when all this is happening, or tell people to paint, while you are painting, all your brain circuits are focused on different other functions, and it is very, very good in releasing tension and stress. Now I will stop and just save the date. Next, on the 4th of August, there will be another webinar. It is linked to this one. It is how we can apply and transfer in fieldwork, also to recognize people in their skills, in their value, in their attitudes, especially in educational or teaching activities, so that all that we have said, we said now until now, can be also put in practice in helping them keep a continuity in their identity, and also in keep their dreams and the possibility to think of a future life that can be a project of their life. And also for the volunteers to bring all these skills you have developed in your personal life and future work and whatever you dream of. So now we can go in the chat. If there are some questions, we are available. Oh,
Actually,
yes,
there is only
yes,
Georgia Hope Elliott, that she was sharing her experience with us.
yes.
So
Would you like to
if you want,
yes.
yeah, of course. I have volunteered with refugees and immigrants on my year abroad. I haven't yet volunteered with refugees through Indigo volunteers, but it is something I would love to do and go into in the future.
Thank you, Georgia. Thank you for your contribution. If there are other questions, and also to write to us, where are you connected from, in which country, if you are in field work, and another important thing, if there are other questions, we will pay attention, is that
Of course.
all this is for a self-help at the self-help level. But if you recognize that there is a condition that needs another kind of help, it is important that you ask for a professional help in your place where you live. You can contact us via email or we have a contact, but it is important that if you need the support, that you find the support, especially if there is a situation that you think it is of high difficulty, but you can contact us. But it is important also to take into consideration that there are many different ways of being helped if there is this need. So we hope that our contribution may have been of positive and helpful. And it will be only me, because Federica had already another engagement. So I will be with you on the 4th of August. And this is important because it has to do with our attitude toward people, because if we recognize that they deserve, that they are not only people that have undergone traumatic or different or dramatic situations, that we recognize their dignity and how we can bring that in the work in volunteering. This has to do with a project that was related with career counseling and work inclusion, educational and work inclusion. I will tell you more about that next week. Yes. The slides are now available for download, both from this
Yes.
webinar and from the previous one. And we have some minutes more if there are other questions.
While we are waiting some
Yes,
other question, I
yes.
wanted also to specify that in the last slide of my presentation that I have not shown, there are also some references about book and interesting material that you can find online or like article or going to buying a book.
Oh, okay. And also in the website Incontri di Psicoterapia, there is a page dedicated where these slides are uploaded, and I will also add some references that I did not have time to put in the slides today that are for self-help and stress management, or also some other readings that can be interesting. So I thank all of you that you participate. We would like to know if people from okay, thank you. Adam is providing a feedback that it was helpful. Thank you, thanks to you, Adam. And
And thank you to Georgia that
and
also had she thanks us, and she said it was very helpful, insightful, and important.
And
Thanks.
we would welcome both if you want to write us also by email about your experiences, some your feedback, or if you have any other questions or other things you would like to have an exchange with us. And thanks also to Indigo and Sebastian that have given us the possibility to reach to you and to share our contributions and our experience and some of our knowledge. So thanks also, Angela. Thanks to you. I wish you all the best. Have a nice summer and be always blessed, and that everything goes fine for you. And so I think that if there are, we have almost, but we have started a little bit, some minutes. You can sign up. Okay, and also there is the
There is
link to
the
sign
link.
up for the next webinar. Okay, thanks, Paula.
Thank you, Paola.
Zep also, Zep K, thanks to you. The webinar, it's a very nice means to also to reach people that are not here at the same place. Sometimes there is not this a possibility to interact, but also in the chat there is this possibility, and this is also why we welcome you to write to us if you wish to. And I think that, and thank you, Federica. There's another Federica among participants. Thank you. And also I think that the webinar will also be available in YouTube. Last time there was a problem
Yes.
last time with the audio, but now I was equipped with this. So this time there were no problems, and I'm very glad about that. Okay, so we are waiting from Sebastian to have the input for the completion of the webinar, and I think we can say goodbye and see you on the 4th of August or through any other contact. And so bye from
And
us.
thanks for your participation.
Thanks. Okay, Federica, you can. Okay.
I think, okay. Sebastian said, I think nobody has any question.
Okay, Federica, I think that we can end the webinar.
Okay, I will
Ciao.
end.
Ciao.
Ciao a tutti.
Federica,
Yes.
tu